Welcome back into another episode of the Spaceman 2.0 Phoenix Truth Rising Show. Here to help you grow in the knowledge and wisdom of truth, and the truth will set you free. With the best history lesson and spiritual insights on the planet, exposure of the Illuminati's plan of world conquest and control is the death knell to the New World Order. Now, in the last episode, you should be now digesting that information and coming to understand that it's the most important and life-changing information according to your soul's understanding of biblical history. And if that's not a fact to understand, then I don't know what is. But we've been all led into the belief that where Jesus' heritage came from was the Hebrewic bloodline. But this has been known and have been understood to be truly false with the Sumerian texts coming to light. Mother Mary, or his Mary, was a Sumerian. And they don't have her lineage, so they just made it up. So let's recap a little bit. So Christ was not a Jew, excerpts from Pontius Pilate's report in the Congressional Library in Washington, D.C. And it goes to his account that he believed he was not like the people around him. And it shows that he was of a different character than those of the Pharisees. And then we went over in another book by author Jacob Ellen Connor of Christ Was Not a Jew, tells the discovery of the tomb of this pharaoh with his mummified body reposing there, and no publicity was given the event that is known to the world. So anyways, he was known for uncovering the pharaoh's reposing in a chamber. But basically, if you just take a small pause and read that to understand that Christ was not a Jew. Take a pause and read that again. And look up at the top. The Psalms and Ecclesiasticus came from all the Sumerian texts. The Enuma Elish is something you get your hands onto and understand. Remember this book, The History of the Bible. Bible is history. And talks about every 10 years, Asiatic horsemen would come in and rape, ravage, and pillage Ashkelon, which is just above Palestine. So they used these Khazars, Scythians, in the past to rape, ravage, and pillage with the multitude, the mixed multitude that Moses had and Abraham had. Now, having said that, this one part of the Bible truly makes a lot more sense. If you understand the Sumerians were taken over by the Hebrews, invading Mesopotamia, taking their culture, their religion, their language, they probably even had the Sumerians in the center of their spiritual philosophy is the tree of life. I've seen it in Persians' households. They have the tree of life hanging on the wall, and it's done in a nice like rug formation. So this is showing that the tree of life has been a center page in their history, and the story of Christian or Christ-like understanding has been at the center. So this one statement, the Gospel according to St. John, look, 11, 1:11, he came to his own domain. This would make a lot more sense. He came to Mesopotamia, but his own people did not accept him because they weren't his own people. But to all who did accept him, he gave power to become children of God. To all who believe in the name of him, who was born not out of human stock or the urge of the flesh or will of man, but of God himself. The Word was made flesh. He lived among us, and we saw his glory, the glory that is his as the only Son of the Father, full of grace and truth. So again, when we go up here, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. So if he was the Word made flesh, Christ was the Word made flesh, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with the God in the beginning. Through him all things came to be. Not one thing had its being, but through him. All that came to be had life in him, and that life was the light of men, a light that shines in the dark, a light that darkness could not overpower. So that does not show you the power of Christ right there. That shows you that this is within you. And if you accept Christ within your heart, that's the domain, the true domain. But look, he came to his own domain. So it shows he came to Mesopotamia and he didn't find any of his people. Okay? It's really, really simple. Hardly any of the people there. And it shows in the Talmud that when half the people are Jews and half the people are not Jews, you treat the children as if this and this. So all these prescriptions for being in cities where half the cities are Jews and half the cities are non-Jews. So let's just take a look at this. He came to his own domain. He came into Mesopotamia. And his own people did not accept him because only 50% of the people there were Sumerians at the time. The others were Pharisees and Hebrews and came down from Caucasus Mountains to Khazarians and mixed multitude. And so we have a whole bunch of Asiatic horsemen, Scythians, all that. Of course, it's a mixed multitude of people there invading this perfect trade route for the entire planet to get anything you like from all over, and to be understood the greatest spiritual knowledge in history, because the civilization of mankind started in Mesopotamia. And we already read that in this journal, 57, and the last one. And then last one here again, 1 John 19, those rivals of Christ came out of our own number, but they had never really belonged. That makes sense. They never really belonged because they weren't really of that area. And they came out of their own number, out of the area, out of the number of people, but they never really belonged. If they had belonged, they would have stayed with us, but they had left us to prove that not one of them ever belonged to us. And when you get a chance, read Matthew 23:13 and on. And it, basically it goes over the 7 times that Christ was telling the scribes they're hypocrites and a brood of vipers and liars from the beginning. And it says here, you're the sons of those who murdered the prophets. And then again it goes on to, well, very well then, finish off the work that your fathers began. Serpents, brood of vipers. Okay? So he's kept calling them that which they are. And a lot of these admonitions of the Pharisees were taken out of the Bible, just to say they were expunged. Anything negative against the holy Hebrew or Jews was expunged. And now that we got that out of the way, that we know if you understand that Christ is the way, the truth, and the light, and the only way to God, and you understand that you're not even now going towards someone who proclaims to be Jewish. He never said he was Jewish. He actually spoke Aramaic, and he might have known Hebrew, just like scholars today know other languages. But with that being said, this has to be a life-changing event for you to come to Christ, for you to understand that Christ was the master teacher of the universe. And he came forth within the area of supposed to be his people, but invaders were there that wanted to kill him. So he knew when he was coming and what his task was to do, and to show that life is everlasting and I am eternal and you cannot even defeat my body. I'm an immortal and an eternal being with the infinite power of God. And what I have within me is in thee. And they were so afraid of him teaching the truth that your consciousness can rise to the level of Christ and cosmic consciousness. And that's what our goal is to do. And we all live under the true tenets of Christed principles when you come to that understanding. And those that don't want and want to go against God and against Christ are the Antichrist. And they will keep fighting against the truth and keep proclaiming the lie as the truth. So with that being said, hopefully we've all come to understand this and grow beyond the dogma and the arrogance and the hypocrisy of today's religious authorities. And remember, if you want to be a true Catholic, use the small c and seek universal truth, not what they show you going on in the Pope's dynasty and all their symbology, because it has nothing to do truly with religion, but all to do with money and control. And the Vatican actually kept the true teachings of Christ and his 5 aspects of his life that taught the way to actually transmute and transform your own life into understanding your spiritual potential. He taught the master plan. And in another episode of the Christos Kabbalah Show, I'll go into the 5 layers of spiritual life coded of transformation in the life of Christ. And we'll simply just go over those 5 aspects of Christ's life. The virgin birth from his mother Mary, a Sumarian, by the way. 2, the baptism by Spirit by John, but he is really not. But our baptism is by Spirit, and John said, I'll baptize you by water, but this man comes to baptize you by the Holy Spirit. The 40 days in the desert, fasting and from temptations, and then the crucifixion and the holy resurrection, showing the truth that God's light lives forever and is eternal and immortal and can overcome all fear and evil. So have faith and trust in God within you to overcome evil in any way, shape, and form. So we'll get into chapter 6, going over earthquakes and the ring of fire. If you don't know where that is, it's important to know about that earthquake zone. And hopefully we'll continue on into the photon belt. That probably have to be more into the next episode, because the introduction here was a little bit lengthy with my explanation, but it's important to recap and understand that Christ was not a Jew. Jesus was not a Jew. His name wasn't even Jesus, was Emmanuel, Izu. And he was a master teacher of the Christed path, and he taught the way to overcome and transmute the mind and the spirit and the heart into knowing God and to understand God and its light and potential, that you can be what he can do, you can do too. And in that being said, they were trying to deceive you and make a religion around him so that they can deceive you from the true master plan, make you into an eternal sinner, guilt and ridden forever with the guilt religion of Catholicism, and you'll never able to understand your true potential. Meanwhile, there's another people walking around saying they're chosen, they're better than everyone else, and they have God potential within them. Shouldn't you be doing that too? You're the chosen one. You're walking around with God potential, and you are God living incarnate on the planet to receive the Holy Spirit and understand what to do and ask the will of God into your heart and be the living hands and feet for God to inspire and do others and to make and create and help and serve, whereof to be of service and help to others in all ways, shape, and form. And everyone has their niche and everyone has their divine simple abilities, if they may be, but they're perfect for the moment and they're perfect for that time. Because sometimes, you know, as it is with a group, one person doesn't feel like doing something, but someone else does, and then everything gets going. Next day, it's maybe different, but today you just go with the flow and everyone helps out. So try not to judge, get over judgments, let go of your opinions, and understand that Christ is within everyone's heart if they can come. Because he even said, I'll come on to even this area, and if they receive the light of Christ in their heart, even they can be redeemed and became pure and innocent again from all of their tragedies that they've done and all their mortal sins that they've created in the past. Sorry, continuing on with chapter 6, HATONN, Wednesday, July 22, 1992, 7:20 a.m., year 5, day 341. I can only hope you are keeping up with the non-news with insight, for there is not time to dwell on each pertinent item. The world situation worsens and relative chaos at the level of impact against the U.S. grows. Tremble, tremble, tremble. As one paddles from flooded houses and flooded streets and survey irreversibly damaged crops in some parts of the nation, others are still baking in drought. New strains of HIV/AIDS are presented along with condom use and films of explicit sexual acts to stem unsafe sex practices. TB is at utmost plague levels. Mosquitoes are bringing uncontrollable malaria. Termites, which can destroy a home in less than 2 years, have invaded. Bees, which attack and kill, have invaded. Troops in battle gear with machine guns at ready patrol around your airports and major cities. Troops are stationed outside all major cities for riot control. Aircraft are being electronically voided and deliberately crashed with visible light beam. You are planning another go at Iraq because they won't let you into their agriculture building to look for nuclear weapons. They say, this won't be a carpet bombing like in the war. What happened to the surgical precision bombing? Look at Gaza. No surgical precision there. You are already in Czechoslovakia and Yugoslavia, along with your blue-helmeted thugs. Egypt is sending troops into that area because people of different cultures and nationality can bring and maintain order better if the people are strange and alien. And ones are going to teach Desiree and George how to better present themselves on stage over my dead vapor to have a more interesting show. And Dharma and EJ have had enough of the... By the way, HIV was created in Fort Detrick, Maryland at military lab. Check it out. It's true. Assaults and accusations from our enemies from within, and how is your day? Earthquakes. Let me tell you something which will not be on the news until after the fact. Within the last 2 hours, the whole of California, from above San Francisco to below the Mexican border, is showing activity in constant motion of approximately a level 2 points and rising this moment. Predictors with sensitive apparatus for measuring, who, by the way, have been right on from the past dozen quakes, say this fault cannot hold past the 24th and more likely will go by the 22nd. That's today. Calls are flooding as daily with updates, and now anyone in Southern California can feel the movement if you just stop long enough to attend it. Is today your day? The expectations are of magnitudes of 10 to 12 or higher impact. Hundreds of thousands are expected to transition. Will you and your children be among them? Will you legalize sodomy and abortion? While you legalize sodomy and abortion, you also set up death by quakes and volcano eruptions. To each his own, but I would certainly be efforting to get square with God, my friends. California is right on that fault line, and if you look at some old maps, ancient old maps, you might see California is actually an island, and they might have filled it in without us knowing back in the past, and we might not even know that. For all of you waiters, I suggest you get non-skid mats under all of your computer and electronic equipment. You're going to undergo long periods shaking when the big ones hit. This means that things are more apt to vibrate off their foundation and are places than in a quick hit jolt. You will experience both, so act accordingly, please.